The narratives before the Lions-Rams playoff game were drama-filled to begin with, but now that the game is over and the Lions have won, another narrative is now starting to take form that's even more drama-filled. We're going to talk about it in today's episode, folks, so stay tuned.
We used to be a team no one respected. We used to be a team no one feared. That was then. This is now.
First victory of the year on the line. Goff's got it. Back, looks, throws, end zone. Yes! Caught!
You know who we are.
10, 5, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
And you know where to find us. We won't be far. We'll be on your front porch waiting for you. We are the New Era Lions, and
we are driven by Detroit.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving in. But before we dive in, I just want to say to all my loyal subscribers and viewers that are coming back, thank you all for your view, thank you all for your patronage, thank you all for your support. It absolutely means the world to me that I have such loyal subscribers and viewers. And to those that are tuning into my show for the very, very first time, I just want to say thank you all for giving my show a shot. I hope you all enjoy the content. But even more so, I hope to gain you all subscribers if I've earned and deserved it. And with that being said, I just want to say to everybody, God bless. I hope you all are having a great day. And let's get into the show. So, here's the thing, folks. Lions winning their first playoff game, 32 years. Definitely a time for great celebration. Definitely a time for many people that have association with the Lions right now, have been associated with the Lions, to really just feel just a great sense of just absolute joy. And I'm just going to say this. For about, a little while, it seemed like that seemed to be the story plot. But boy, wouldn't you know it, it's like when one sense of drama kind of ends with the Lions winning and the whole stuff about Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, Sean McVay, and all that nonsense kind of coming to a close because Goff got his revenge, Goff got his validation, Goff got his vindication that, hey, you know what? You guys gave up on me, blah, 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 blah. Here's my chance to prove it back to you. When that whole narrative kind of ended with the Lions winning and Jared Goff playing an absolutely damn near perfect game, another sense of drama opened up. Now, I would not normally talk about this because it's like, listen, the game's done and over with. Who freaking cares? But when we're talking about Matthew and Kelly Stafford, because of how important, how big, how much celebratory status they have here in Detroit, it's something you just can't ignore it. And you certainly can't ignore it after this kind of game that we just had, because whether you want to call it this or not, this was Matthew Stafford's homecoming. Again, I know people say that Stafford has come back to Detroit after he got traded, but this was his first game back to Detroit as a player playing in Ford Field for an opposing team. So this was Stafford's homecoming, and I know everybody's heard it because all the damn media networks wanted to make the game about Stafford and the Rams rather than about Goff and the Lions and what they have done, which I think was completely stupid and selfish of the media networks, but hey, you know what? They're going to do what they're going to do. That's done and over with. But again, we're talking about Kelly Stafford now for the second time in as many weeks because I don't know what it is with her, but it seems like whenever she is slighted, in the slightest, she finds a way to make it into this really, really big, mountain out of a molehill. And to me, it's not even that Kelly Stafford did it. Even Matthew did it. And that's what we're going to be talking about here because I'm going to be kind of honest with y'all. This was not exactly the kind of, how should I dare say it, reaction or behavior that I was expecting from the Staffords. And don't get me wrong, I want to put this out there first and foremost before we even have this conversation. I still love the Staffords. I love what Matthew did for the city. I love his foundation. I love his charity. I love everything that he did for the city before he left to go to LA. I love all of that. And I'm still very appreciative for the 12 years that Matthew gave to the Lions. But it's like, listen, this post-game nonsense that's now come out is really going to kind of throw a wet towel, kind of put a bad stink on that relationship because it just seems to me that this is some really petty bull crap is what we're getting at here. And it's like, listen, I don't know what it is, but it seems like every time something else happens, it just makes this whole relationship, if you will, between the fans of the Detroit Lions, the city of Detroit, and Matthew and Kelly Stafford, particularly Kelly, it just makes it that much more complicated. So let's actually talk about it. What exactly am I referring to here? Well, as I'm going to show you guys up here on the screen, Kelly Stafford on her Instagram, she posted this picture with a response that she got from a fan, or a commentator, I should say, probably not a fan, of her Instagram, that, the person said, you know what, enough of this Detroit love for the Staffords. They left us, they quit on us, and then said at the very end, F them. Now, here's what I'm going to say about this. What Kelly then said is that in her opinion, and I'm just going to put this quite frankly, because of the comment that the Post had, but also apparently from what happened at Ford Field on Sunday night, that apparently she felt that her kids were being booed. That she felt that her and Matthew's 4 daughters were being booed at the game, or primarily because of this. I can't figure out which way or the other, so I'm including both just to cover both my bases here. But to me, I just kind of find this rather interesting, because to me, I have to ask myself the question here. Where in the thunder is that coming from? Because okay, let's understand something here. While the phrase F them, you could definitely say that is conclusive to the entirety of Stafford's family, we already know exactly who that is more than likely referring to. It's referring to Kelly and Matthew. Now, I'm going to say this right now. Is that acceptable behavior? Absolutely not. It's not acceptable behavior. You should not, under any circumstances, say that to people directly or about people behind their back. It's like, listen, I'm of the mindset if you're going to say something, say it straight to my face, but at least be respectful about it. So to me, that comment by that individual was completely uncalled for and completely unnecessary. You could have said something else that was a lot more respectful and still got the point across without having to bring that kind of vulgarity into the conversation. That's just my personal viewpoint. Now, putting this into the conversation and context of the game, as far as I know, from what I saw from the broadcast, Matthew was booed in pregame. He was booed when he came onto the field for the first time, and he was booed after the game at postgame. So for me, it's like at no point during the game did I ever feel like anybody was specifically booing Matthew and Kelly's daughters, because why would they? This is the part that makes no sense to me. If I recall correctly, all of Stafford's kids are less than 10 years old. They had no influence, they had no ability to make a decision on whether or not Stafford and his family left to go to LA. That was purely a Matthew decision. Matthew was the one that went to Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell after they were hired and after Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn were fired and said, listen, I don't want to go through another rebuild. I want a chance to go and win. And they said, okay, fine, we understand. We'll find something that works for you. And then that was when the whole trade between Goff and the Rams and Stafford came to being. Because Matthew Stafford wanted out. He was done with rebuilds. He was done with going through all the nonsense, chaos, and ineptitude that the Lions have been giving him the last 12 years. And he said, listen, I'm out. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, they obliged. And they obliged him well. So to me, it's like, I can't understand how Kelly would say that the boos were specifically directed towards her kids. Now, unless there was some fan or fans that were at Ford Field that specifically said that to her and specifically were booing her kids, that I don't know because I wasn't there at the game. But here's what I have to say about this. Everybody knew who was being booed at in Ford Field that night. And it had and everybody knew it was towards Matthew Stafford. And that was because of all the drama that had been surrounding Matthew Stafford's homecoming prior to the game. But I have to ask this question here. Are we really going to say, or is Kelly really going to say that the fans were being, classless, tasteless, that, whatever Kelly's trying to make this about because of one comment or because a couple of fans out of a stadium of 66,000 people may have booed her kids? Here's what I'm going to say here. That's just what happened in those instances. That was one or a couple of individuals that showed no class. They showed no taste. That is not at all a reflection of the totality of the Detroit Lions fan base. That is not at all a reflection of the totality of the city of Detroit or the organization of the Lions. So for me, it's like, listen, I can't understand why you would take that comment, or even if some fans did actually do what you said they do. And again, I'm not calling her a liar. I'm just simply saying I don't know because I wasn't there. But I can't see how you can stick that label and snub and take a shot at the Lions fans, the entire fan base, just because of what a couple of, how should I say, classless individuals decide to do. That to me just makes no sense. But again, that whole nonsense is only half of the story here when it comes to the Staffords taking a shot. And I can't just say Kelly, it's also Matthew here. Because after the game, Matthew Stafford was at his post-game press conference with the Rams reporters, so on and so forth, and somebody asked a question about, his thoughts, his feelings, what he was feeling in regards to the city of Detroit, his ex-team, his ex-players, blah, 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 and whether or not he was happy despite the loss. And all Stafford specifically said was, I'm happy for the players. Now, again, maybe this is reading a little too much into this, but my first thought, as well as a lot of other people, was, why are you only specifically happy for the players? Why are you not happy for the fans? Why are you not happy for the organization that you spent 12 years playing for? The players that are on that team, most of them you've never played with. In fact, most of the players that are on that team that you used to play with, they're now gone. This team is almost completely and 100% a different team than whatever Stafford had when he was here. There's very few players that are still around from when Stafford was playing. So to me, it's just kind of like, well, wait a minute here. You're happy for the players, most of which you've never played with, but yet you're not happy for the fans for having the ability to see a playoff win for the first time in 32 years. You're not happy for the organization of the Detroit Lions, which, let's be fair and honest here, Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, Sheila, they all showed you nothing but respect and class, making sure that you were sent to a place where you could win. You have no happiness, you have no wish of, well-being towards the organization that gave you the ability to go to LA so you could win that Super Bowl. You're just happy for the players. Now that to me seems to be a bit of a slight towards the Lions fans and organization. That to me is taking a shot. Because to me, it's like, I have to ask myself this question. Is this part and parcel because about what did happen with Kelly and what happened on social media? It possibly could be. It could be possibly about that. But to me, I have to ask myself this question. Could it also possibly be the fact that not only did Stafford get booed at the field, but that during pregame and postgame, Jared Goff got chants literally of his name on the field? I'm going to say this right now. I watched Stafford the whole entire 12 years he was here. I do not remember a single time where Matthew Stafford's name was ever chanted like what Jared Goff got on Sunday night. Now, granted, to be fair, Matthew Stafford never got us a home playoff game. Matthew Stafford never got us a division crown, and Matthew Stafford never won a playoff game. So I can understand why the Lions fans were cheering and chanting Goff's name when I don't remember Matthew Stafford's name either getting that kind of celebratory chant like what Goss did. It might have happened on some level in times past, but not to that fervor and degree. Then you have to think about it this way. Not only was it the fans pregame and postgame, it was also the locker room. Again, I know everybody has seen the videos that have come after the game in the locker room. The players were literally chanting Jared Goff's name before he even walked into the freaking locker room. They were literally saying, Jared Goff, Jared Goff. And literally as Goff walked in, he walked in like as if he was the conquering hero and got nothing but just a complete celebratory applause and cheer from his players and his teammates. I don't remember ever something like that happening for Matthew Stafford either. So to me, I have to ask the question here, is it possible that maybe Stafford is perhaps a little bit jealous of what Jared Goff got from the fans in the city of Detroit when he's only been here a fraction of the time that he was there? But here's the thing, just to put that in perspective, even though Goff's only been here a fraction of the time, literally a fourth of the time that Stafford was here, Goff has been able to do more in just his fraction of the time than Stafford was ever able to do. So there's that. So again, could it perhaps be that Stafford was angry because of the reception and the love that Goff got? Was it perhaps that he was jealous about it? Maybe, maybe not. I can't speak for Stafford, but it's like, listen, the shot that he gave towards the fans and the organization, just to me, it's a perplexing situation. And again, maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe perhaps that whole comment was because, maybe Stafford still had his competitive drive. Maybe he was still in that competition mode. Maybe he wasn't thinking clearly. I don't know. But to me, it's one of those situations where you sit back and you're like, okay, he specifically said he was only happy for the players. Didn't mention anything about the fans. Didn't mention anything about the organization that he played for. And it's like, okay, all of the crap that's been going on with Kelly over the last week has just been completely ridiculous. Whether it was about the supposed jersey ban by the Detroit Line, whether it was because of, this whole thing about her kids getting booed. And then there was the other thing that I didn't talk about but found out about this earlier. The whole thing about how the Lions said that they couldn't give Kelly a supposed suite. And it's like, there's all this stuff that's been coming out about Kelly Stafford, and now Matthews kind of joined in it. And it's just like, listen, I understand that this is football and it's competitive and people are going to have, a certain kind of agenda with certain things. But to me, it's like, listen, it's like whether or not Stafford and the Rams lost, to me, it's just like, listen, you should be happy more so than just for the players. You should not be throwing shots at the fans that supported you for 12 years, the majority of which that supported Stafford for the 12 years. And then after he went to LA, continued to support him, and we had people that decided to become Detroit Rams fans when Stafford and the Rams went to the Super Bowl. So it's like, listen, I don't understand where all this is coming from with Matthew and Kelly, but it's like, listen, again, this whole thing is based either on a couple of fans that were completely classless at the game, or Kelly's completely overblowing that because of the fact that her husband got booed and thought that also her kids were getting booed, or because of the one fan on social media. And then there's the whole thing with Stafford and what he said at the press conference. And it's just like, dude, it's like, how much more possible drama can you possibly put into a situation? It's like, listen, you guys lost. I understand it. It sucks. But at the same time, Kelly and Matthew at the end were like, hey, you know what? Glad that Detroit win. We'll cheer them on. And it's like, listen, it's one of those kind of things where it's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek. It's kind of like a backhanded slap, if you will. Because it's like, oh, well, we're going to express our displeasure because of what happened, because of these particular slights. But then at the very end, we're still going to say, hey, you know what? We want to cheer on the city of Detroit. We want to cheer on the Lions, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, wait a minute here. Why couldn't you just leave out all that other nonsense, all that childish bull crap, and not make that the primary issue here? Rather just say, hey, you know what? Congrats to the Lions winning. We'll cheer you on for the rest of the playoffs. Go out and get that one. Again, why is it that you have to include the other crap, which then people now have to be left wondering, questioning, myself making content on, wondering, well, why exactly was this the primary thing that you wanted to talk about? Because it's like, listen, you could have completely buried this, never even made it a content conversation or topic by just simply saying what I said. But yet, Matthew and Kelly clearly wanted to tell something. They wanted to get some sort of a message across. Well, obviously, the message they got across is that they felt that they were being disrespected, or they felt that they were not being shown the proper love because of that homecoming game that Stafford was getting. I don't know. I don't really care. The point of the matter is that as a fan that still likes Matthew Stafford as a quarterback, even though we just played him, I find this to be a bit disrespectful towards the majority of Lions fans that actually were classy, that were respectful, and actually went about the game the way it's supposed to be played. Hey, you're coming into our home stadium. You're the opponent. Yeah, you're not going to be given the red carpet welcome. You're going to get booed. But again, it's all because of the game. It's not anything personal. It's just business. But this is not business. These comments, these topics that I'm talking about, this is not business. This is now we're starting to get into a personal realm, because it's like now you're starting to take the actions of one individual for sure, or potentially a few individuals that we do or do not know happened, and now you're wanting to make that the main story. That to me is a bit of a problem. And that's where you start having issues where it's like, okay, yeah, you did all these great things for us, and then there comes the very operative key word, but. This is the kind of stuff that but should not have that shouldn't be here. This is the kind of stuff that, you know what, it's like, listen, is this really is this really worth making a mountain out of a molehill? No, it's not. But to me, it's like, listen, I love Stafford. I still like him as a quarterback. Jared Goff is my quarterback. I consider Goff to be the better quarterback, and Goff is still my favorite quarterback over Stafford. But I still have nothing but respect and love for Stafford's game and for what he did here in Detroit. But it's like, this is just ridiculous. But I'm just going to end this here because I could go on this for a little while longer, and I don't feel the need to do it. But having said that, I just want to say thank you all for watching another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage you all to watch the next episode. I also encourage you all to do this. If you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so, or you just subscribed and I had a chance to do so, again, please subscribe because I want to keep that subscription number going up, but it always seems to be doing so anyway. But to also make sure that subscription number also keeps going up, I also encourage you all, please, to make sure you turn on that bell notification icon as well, so that way you never miss any more content that I push out. Again, the more people we get constantly coming back in, the better the channel does, which attracts new viewers. But to also help in that endeavor, I also want to make sure to encourage y'all, please, to share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook. Share it anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. Again, the more we share it, the better the channel grows, the better the channel spreads. Everything continues to do well for this channel, and I'm so thankful for all those that have helped it along the way. And with that being said, I just want to say again, thank you all for what you guys do. Hopefully I gained some new subscribers, and if I did, welcome to the family. If I still haven't gained your subscription, hopefully you'll come back and I'll get another chance to do so. But until that next time, I just want to say to everybody, God bless, and until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.